Thank you, Sandeep. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be taking you through the transaction, which is a live transaction on the TReDS platform, which is a M1 TReDS platform from Mind. There are essentially three participants on this platform: the corporate buyer, the seller, and the financer. So we'll be running a transaction on the reverse factoring process, which is between the buyer, seller, and the financiers. Let's begin. So as you will see on the screen, the buyer is going to be able to see all the transactions which are uploaded by his team, which are available to be submitted for the onward processing by the seller as well as the financer. So buyer's role starts by picking up the transaction from the screen. Now the buyer is going to be able to see all the details related to the invoice, which is the invoice number, value, and the various other aspects of the invoice. The buyer will need to essentially either approve or reject, as the case may be. So here the buyer is approving the transaction. Upon the approval, the authorization letter will pop up on the screen. The buyer can go through the letter and the various terms and conditions and can accept the letter by signing it digitally. Now this is a very important stage. So the buyer accepts the conversion of the invoice into a factor unit by digitally signing the transaction. Now it's the same digital signature which every corporate buyer has, which are going to be used here. Now upon the submission of this transaction, the transaction will now appear in the next stage, which is the supplier approval. The supplier is going to be able to see all the transaction in the likewise manner on the screen. The supplier is supposed to now accept or reject the transaction, as the case may be. We will approve this transaction for this demo. Now you will see again the screen will open up, which will be an authorization letter, which is again going to be digitally signed by the seller. Here we sign it digitally. Now you will see the factor is digitally signed and submitted for the onward bidding by the financiers. So we'll go to the financer screens now. So financer will essentially have two roles to play, which is the submission of the bid and the approval of the bid. So financer will have the submission of the bid will have 4 stages, which are essentially the steps to submitting a bid. So financer is going to be able to see the factoring unit details, the invoice details, the bank details, and if there are any documents to be uploaded. Now we'll proceed to submit the bid. As you can see, there is a window where the financer is going to be able to put the rate of interest essentially offered by the bank, which is the yield, and move to the next stage. The invoice details are visible here. These are the relevant bank details. And here the banker is going to be able to submit the bid. Now the bid has been successfully submitted. We go to the next stage, which is the approval by the financer. Again, the transactions are all listed here. So the approver is selecting the transaction, the factor. You can see all the details. And approve it for the bid to become available to the seller. Now you can see this approval will also need to be digitally signed. and now this bid has been completed. So now we move on to the next stage, which is the approval by the seller for the bids received. Now at this stage, the seller can choose from the various bids which he has received. And the deed of assignment opens up. The terms of the bids are mentioned here. The seller will need to digitally sign it. And submit the approval. So the bid has been successfully accepted, and this will result into the onward banking transaction, which is the exchange will be now generating a settlement file, which is by way of which the seller account will be credited and the bank account will be the successful financier's account will be debited, and that will complete the process.